Okay, I'm recording
She
now.
said tapping
I just wanted to make
ASMR.
sure we haven't done this in a while. I just want to make sure it's all working. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pineapple Headache after a long awaited
Woo!
wait.
Life got crazy, but here we
Life
are.
did. Here we are, and today we're gonna talk about the latest Marvel movie that's come
Yes.
out by Madison's favorite Marvel character.
Black Widow!
The reason Madison started writing.
Yeah, that's embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. Yeah, Natasha.
Yes, for all of those who are living under a rock, I guess. Black Widow came out like about 2 weeks ago.
After it was supposed to come out like last May, but then
Yes.
COVID
And
happened.
then Disney was like, we are going to wait because this deserves the theater experience,
Experience.
despite also putting it on Disney Plus for like
Yeah,
$30.
but you know what? It worked on me because I saw it both ways.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so like let's just like
So
start
they
there.
made
Like
double money off of me.
you were part of the box office sales and the Disney Plus, which I saw the first weekend. They like did pretty well on. I think they made like what like it's $80 million box
Hmm.
office and then like 60 million on Disney Plus if I'm
I feel
correct.
like that's probably pretty good for a solo film because I know the Avengers ones
Mhm.
always make a gazillion dollars, but I
Right.
think I read that was pretty good for like compared to some of the solo films. So
Yeah, I mean for a lot of
yeah,
people like this is their first time back at the theater.
so true.
So, it's
This
like a
is
big event, you know.
and it's the first time seeing a Marvel movie in theaters in two
Mhm.
years. It was like, the first year or so of not seeing a Marvel movie in theaters, I was like, you know what, this has brought some peace to my life. But then
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now I'm bored. So
Yeah.
I would like to go back.
Okay, so like let's start there. So like how was your watch experience? Like what did you do? Because I remember I had texted Madison like around the time Black Widow came out cuz I had gone to work and I was talking to people Black Widow and then it hit me cuz I got sad cuz usually me and Madison have like a tradition to go
Hmm.
watch all the Marvel movies opening night
Yeah.
at our theater back when we were like living at LMU or near LMU and we would go
Hmm.
to the what do you call it? The Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes Center Cinemark, where it was like they had the student discount tickets that we would never get those for opening night movies because I'd always buy it ahead of time with Fandango, so it would cost like a gazillion dollars. Ah, the good old days. And then
It
it would
was
be
a
like in a
tradition.
crowded theater, so then you have the whole experience while
Yeah.
the audience reacting and
Mhm.
stuff. Especially for
Yeah.
Avengers, that was so fun.
For Avengers and just like I don't know the cuz when we're like sitting together it's just kind of us like with like silently reacting
Yes. And we also make
and then
comments.
hearing
I
each
feel
other.
I'm one of those
Yeah.
annoying people that talks a little bit in movies every once in a while.
Yeah, like when Natasha died and then you just laughed.
I know. And I had another moment like that with this one. Yeah, as we all know, I'm a big MCU stan. I know it's unhealthy. It's a collection of films. I'll just say that. It's very tumultuous, but I've been a Natasha stan since I watched Winter Soldier in 2014. So what is that, like 7 years now? But I was like aggressively a Natasha stan for like most of high school. Like it was literally as much. It was like almost equal part of my personality as Pokemon. Like it was Pokemon and Black Widow. That was my
Mhm.
whole personality for like the back half of high school. And it's so cute now and like wholesome because now people, even though it's like been a while since, like I like kind of mellowed out as the years went on, even though I was still like Natasha's my favorite. But like it was such a big part of like my identity that since the movie has come out, people have been texting me asking me my thoughts. Like people I haven't even spoken to in a while, they're just like, I just
Mhm.
saw it and I need to know your thoughts because you're the Black Widow person in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, I feel so important now and so seen, especially because back when I first joined, after Winter Soldier came out, I felt like Natasha's character became very like hot, like topic wise, like because everyone was like, whoa, she's like so cool, like why doesn't she have her own movie? And so like back then in Marvel fandom, it was like a lot of where's the Black Widow movie, and there were a lot of like social media campaigns and stuff being like, are we gonna get this or not. And there was at one point where I kept posting this. I had like drew some picture of Natasha with like, where's my movie? And then I was posting it daily and tagging Marvel on Tumblr at one point, like 2015 probably. So it's like I will always be forever sad that this took so long to come out, because the time for that really would have been like 5 or 6 years ago, because that's when everybody was really like, where is it? Because then at the time too, the only real female major characters in the MCU were Natasha and then Gamora when Guardians came out, and then they added Wanda, but that was like it, like for female heroes. Like there was no Captain Marvel, there was like nobody else really, so it was like, when are we gonna have one? And then they just waited so freaking long that I will forever be bitter. But I know that teenage me, who was in the thick of the whole fixation on Natasha, I think would have really loved this movie. So it was really nice to finally get it, even a year late. Well, it's technically several years late, plus an extra year late. So
Right. Okay. So why don't you just tell us about what was your movie going experience?
Oh yeah. So for when I saw it the Thursday night before, like, opening. It was like at 8 o'clock, whatever. And I was actually in the Bay Area with some friends. Shout out to Laurel, Dion, and Crystal, and Shun, and Martin, who also saw it with us. So we all saw it together, like the 8 o'clock night before showing. I think our whole group was kind of on the same page of going in with like not really any expectations. Because it's like, it's the first Marvel movie in a while. Also, this is about a character who's literally dead, so no matter if it's good or bad, there's no way to continue the story. Like, unless you're gonna pull some more funky time stuff. But I also think Scarlett Johansson's, like, done. Which, that's fine. I don't need the Asian tree in my life anymore. It's fine, whatever. But so, we were just like, don't know what to expect. So, and that was my first time seeing a movie in theaters since we saw Yellow Rose last year.
Oh, that's
which was
right.
like that was my other one COVID movie experience where we had to leave the county to see that. That was such a good throwback. But yeah, so then I was like, okay, this is my first like movie like blockbuster movie. So, but it was not that crowded actually, which I was kind of expecting to be not that crowded. Because I was like, it's on Disney Plus, and this is like, it's a women-led Marvel movie, and it's a solo film. Like, this is not gonna it's not gonna bring out the whole Avengers like audience. So I was like, fine. But it was really nice seeing it in theaters. Like, I've since watched on Disney Plus like twice, but I'm like really about to go rewatch it by myself in a theater just to have the whole immersive experience again. But then it was also just so fun like seeing with friends again too, because I mean obviously I also missed Christienne because we didn't get to continue our tradition. But like there's nothing like seeing a Marvel movie with friends who are also all like in the know, and then you get to like react to stuff together. And my moment where I was embarrassingly loud and laughing when I should not have was during the end credits scene, which I guess, or is this a spoiler-free review? I'm gonna say no. So
No, this is not
spoiler
a spoiler
warning from now
spoilers.
on. So in the end credits scene, when it was revealed that Valentina or whatever was like, oh, Yelena, this is the man responsible for your sister's death, and she pulled out that picture of Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, I lost my shit and laughed so hard. I was like, oh no, I'm that person now in the theater. Like, I laughed so hard, and I think I heard other people laugh. I think people laughed at me laughing, like, in the theater, because it was just so out of pocket. And then Laurel was sitting next to me, and she also laughed so hard, because it was just such a good reveal. And then, because we were, like, unironically, yes. Like, obviously, Marvel was setting it up that, like, Yelena is gonna go find Clint, and then initially try to kill him or whatever, and he's gonna be like, I didn't kill her, this is what actually happened. Like, we all know that's what's gonna happen. But the idea that she might just do it and just might eliminate him and Jeremy Renner from the MCU is just too good. Yeah, overall, that was a very great movie-going experience. I did not get popcorn, though, because I didn't want to take off. I didn't want to take off my mask to eat it.
That's true.
But how about you? What was your movie experience? Did you see it in the theater?
I did. Well, okay. Well, I'm just gonna say this right now. When I saw the credit scene, and I was like, first off, Florence Pugh looked really good in the credit scene.
Yes.
Second thing, when that reveal happened, I was like, what? why? I don't need that. Okay. I was like, okay, I don't know. I was just like, this is kind of dumb. Like, I
It's
don't
a
really want.
Yeah, well, it would not be dumb if actually Elena followed through on it, which I would if I was her. But I know that's not what's gonna
Okay.
happen. I think they just needed a
Yeah.
way to put her in the Hawkeye show.
Yeah. Which okay, we'll bring up that later. We're gonna bring that later then. I went to go watch Black Widow. I like on like opening weekend because like as I had said before, I work at a movie theater, so like I'm talking to people about movies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I also walk in for like the last like 10 to 20 minutes and I see everything on the big screen and I'm like I can't do this. Like I have to watch Black Widow first.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm like gonna just get like a lot of information without context and be like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to watch it. I remember I watched the first showing at the movie theater near me,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a rainy day, and I was like, I wanted to ask my sisters if they could go with me, and they were like, no, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll go alone. So I watched it alone on a rainy day,
Wow.
and I was like feeling the gloom.
Aw.
And I sat down and I had no like I don't remember the trailers that they put out, any of the teasers that they put out. I was like I literally don't know what the story is about other than
Same.
I know Florence Pugh is going to be in it as
Mm-hmm.
like a little sister. So I didn't really have many expectations going into it. I was like I'm just ready to like escape like cuz you know you're in a movie theater, like you're here to like escape life for a second and just like immerse yourself in a different world. So I did it, and then I watched the movie. I enjoyed it. Generally, I enjoyed it, which we'll bring up later on. And then after the movie finished and watched the whole credits scene. Oh, also there weren't a lot of people there because I was at the first showing, which was like at noon.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was also raining, so like why would anyone want to go brave the rain to go do it? But yeah, after I had finished the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, that was better than I expected. And then I texted Madison and I was like, wow, I'm really sad that we really didn't get to see this
I know,
together
like an
because,
actually
like,
good one, an actually good
yeah,
film, because that was rare for
because
us.
I know, because, like, usually, like, when me and Madison watch a Marvel film, we'll walk out and be like, was that a lot? Was that good or was that just a lot to take
Yeah.
in?
AKA Infinity War and Endgame. I
Yeah.
think probably the best one we saw together. I don't know. Did we watch Black Panther in theaters together?
We watched Black Panther
Oh,
together.
okay. I couldn't remember because I know I also saw that with someone else, Cursed. And
Yeah.
then we also saw Thor Ragnarok together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so those are probably the highlights before, and then all the other ones that came out around that were,
Well, yeah,
they
because
were
I
okay.
feel like there were elements of the movie that you and I both already enjoy. I mean, aside from like it's like for you, it's like about Nat, but also just the whole like just a lot of themes about like family and stuff. I feel like we both like
Sisters.
would have enjoyed. Yeah, also the sisters thing.
Sisterly.
That I think we both really enjoyed and like would have enjoyed reacting together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it's okay. I like generally I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, which I've seen
Yeah,
other people say too.
yeah. Also, I was telling Madison earlier that because like I talk to people about movies, I usually see their first reactions coming out in the theater. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like telling Madison, I was like, "Oh, it's just really cute because I forget that like kids go to watch Marvel movies because we're
There's
always
PG
focused on like
13.
yeah, we're always focused on like teens and like young adults like watching this movie and getting their opinion when you like I see little kids walk out and be like, "Oh my god, Yelena is so funny. Like Yelena's my favorite superhero now." And I was just like, "Oh my god, that's
Aw.
really cute." Like I saw a little girl and her dad walk out of the theater after the movie ended and she was just like, "Dad, that was so good. Yelena's my favorite superhero."
Aw.
And I was like, "Oh my god."
That's so cute. See, that's what they should have, if they'd done this like 5 years ago. They could have helped, that whole movement could have been happening then.
Yelena could have like I mean, okay, well like I guess we can just start getting into it now because
Yes.
like a lot of people, I mean, I feel like generally people are like this movie came out too late,
Yes. It was.
way too late, and then like it would have created a like more personal connection for the things that Nat did in Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah. It like would
knowing that
have.
she died.
It's like so frustrating because it's like because I read so much like fanfic and saw so many like people's interpretations of her character and like have my own and stuff. It's like, for years like in the fandom we've all been tapping into this side of Nat that was literally not shown until this movie. So it's like out of like so all of her like this added the context that fandom had been adding to her behavior for the last like 5 or 6 years by ourselves. And it's like so heartbreaking to me that it's like only now do people get that context to like her character and like why she does the things she does or how she feels the way she feels. Because it's like it was always like right there. It's just but like they never really tapped into it except sometimes the Russo brothers would. Like I kind of was starting to feel it in Winter Soldier and then like Civil War when she would be like, I just want to keep the Avengers together. And then I felt like, that was definitely overshadowed by Tony and Steve being the way they were. And then her making like her jumping in Endgame makes all the sense in the world, but I still feel like it was just so unjust because of how little her character had gotten to shine on her own before that. And like honestly that was like when I was first watching this movie in the theater, like once it got to like the present day and it was showing her in the bathroom and stuff, like I had this whole like almost like out of body like experience where I was just sitting there and I was like, normally I would be expecting like Steve or Tony's gonna walk through the door right now, then the camera's gonna shift to them, and that's gonna be that. But it's like, I was like, no, like this scene has been going on for like 3 minutes. Natasha is the focus of the scene. She's the center of the camera. She's like, the extreme close-ups are all her. Like, we are solely just following, and then we follow her on the boat, and when she's doing, and I'm like, we are solely just following just Natasha around. And like, that was just like a whole moment I had where I was like, because I'd just been waiting for it so long that it just almost felt unreal. It was like, I can't believe it's like, the camera is literally only following Natasha around. The story is only following Natasha. Like, no, none of the big ones, as Yelena called them, is like gonna come in and then it's like, oh, that's who it's actually about. It was like, no, like, we are watching Natasha in the bathroom and then we watch her on the boat. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I had to get over that just to get into the rest of the movie. It was just so weird, but yeah.
I don't think I really had that much of a moment. But again, it's like, it's because you just
me.
have such a more personal connection
Yeah.
with Black Widow as a character. But instantly, like, when the movie opened and it was like them as kids, I was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting.
I think I got partially spoiled on that before.
Oh, okay. I was just like not expecting it, and like I really like the opening scene of them as kids because it like it establishes the whole thing of like, oh, like she had a family at the beginning, and the whole thing of like, oh, now they're gonna run off, and then when they started playing the American Pie song, I immediately thought of you because like,
yes,
I know like you really like that song. Also, you would play it on the guitar sometimes.
I know.
I was like, oh my God.
I was like, I had these moments at the beginning of the movie or like throughout the movie where I was like, there are things in here that feel very personal to me that are not even related to Natasha, but they put in the movie. Like that song, which for context, I was watching with my mom when I watched it with my mom, and then Yelena was like, play my song, and they put it on, and she started singing along. My mom turned to me and looked at me, and she's like, you had that phase. Because I, as a kid, got obsessed with American Pie, and I still know all the words, like, 10 years later or whatever. And then, also, when they were in Cuba, Yelena had the little My Little Pony plushie. She had a Twilight Sparkle plushie, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I was like, this feels like some weird spiritual universe thing is happening right now where I was like, wait.
I had the same thought too. I was like, oh my gosh, a My Little Pony. They were like little kid, like they were little like brony. Yeah. Like, you just love Little Pony. And I just thought of you in that moment and I was like, Madison's gonna feel something. I know, I was like, little details.
I was like, this is like very personally connecting to me in ways I was not expecting. Where it's almost like, not to be like self-centered, but it's like, they made this movie for me.
I mean,
just a little bit wrong. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did really like the opening sequence. I was like surprised Natasha had blue hair because I thought people dyeing their hair unnatural colors was more of a in the last 10 years thing. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. She had it in the 90s. I don't know. Which she should bring that back. The blue hair looked nice.
Yeah. I also I really like the opening, the title sequence when they were like, "Oh, let's show human
Oh my gosh,
trafficking happen."
yeah. That
But
because
it was so cut well and it was just very
with
stylized and I
the
was like, "Oh, this is
yeah.
really
Oh,
setting
and
it
then
up
with
to
the
be like a really cool
Nirvana,
movie."
the Nirvana
Yeah.
song took me out of it a little bit because I just kept being like, "This is a Nirvana song. This is a cover of a Nirvana song, but like an emo one." I don't know. I just had that moment where I was like, "Okay," but like, yeah, I really liked that the opening sequence like was as dark as it was because I always felt that like Marvel was just kind of dancing around the fact that Natasha actually kind of has like the darkest backstory out of like
Mhm.
most of the characters because she was literally like human trafficked and then
Yeah.
like brainwashed from a young age. So it was like, and even then, like after that sequence, I felt there was more that they could have shown about her and Elena's like childhoods in the Red Room that they didn't really like get into. Like they kind of just like showed the montage of like the brainwashing, and they talk about how they had the forced hysterectomies and stuff, and it's like I'm pretty sure in like reality too, like they would have been like I think in the comics there was like stuff about like Natasha like having to kill like a bunch of her classmates to like prove her strength, and it's like they kind of touch on that when they're like a lot of people don't make it out of the Red Room because they usually make them kill each other, and then they like will send them like as children to go assassinate people. So like there was a lot they could have done
Right.
to make it even more dark that would have still stuck to canon just to emphasize like how messed up these people's lives were. They were like child assassins, but
Mhm.
I guess because it's a PG-13 Marvel movie, not an R-rated edgy film, so they
Yeah.
can't really lean that heavily into it. But I did like the sequence in the beginning for that.
Yeah, I mean, cause it kind of established the movie that I was gonna be like, oh, so we're gonna like actually like address these things and talk about these things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we're gonna talk more into I guess like our critiques of the movie later on, but I just like want like what you said, like I wish we did see more of Natasha and Yelena growing up like in
Yeah.
the Red Room, cause it was kind of lacking in that, and I felt like I was missing context for a lot of things very much like we didn't see it, but like you told us, so we're just kind of supposed to believe
Mm-hmm.
it. And so there's not really
Yeah.
much of like a visual connection
Yeah,
to
or
that.
like when was the last time they talked
Mm-hmm.
before they reunited? Like that like I was like they went from being these happy kids in Ohio to the fight in Budapest where I was like, okay, something happened in between here or something that I feel like could have been shown.
Yeah.
Or like maybe a lack of something happened in between. I don't know, but like, just more of that. I don't know. But overall I still really liked it, obviously.
Yeah. But I think my favorite thing about the movie was definitely the relationship between Nat and Yelena, because like I said,
They're
like
so
I think
cute.
I feel like I just have a soft spot when it comes to stories about siblings, but
Mhm.
also I think I just have a soft spot for like spy movies that are about families.
Oh yes,
I don't
Spy
know,
Kids
like
stand over here.
yeah, I just was like this has kind of like a similar vibe to Spy Kids, but
That's
like
true.
PG-13 and Marvel,
Mhm.
where it's like oh, families like trying to come back together
Mhm.
even though like like they're learning to trust each other and try to function together as a family again. So I was like oh, this is like I thought that this was kind of giving off those type of vibes. But yeah, I personally felt connected to when Nat and Yelena were fighting and then Yelena breaks a plate over Nat and I was
Yes.
like uh-huh.
Sisterly.
Yeah.
It's like this it was giving me the same sister thing of like Gamora and Nebula where it's like this just makes so much sense if you have a sister. Like when
Yeah.
Nebula flew halfway across the galaxy just to prove a point to Gamora and be like, I was right. Like I was like, yeah. Yeah, that's about that is that, which makes me it just makes me so much more sad that it feels like all these other sibling dynamics in MCU have gotten they get their multiple movies and like multi-movie
Mhm.
arcs and then Yelena and Nat literally got one film. Like Thor,
One. And
how
it's like
long will we be dealing with the angst of Thor and Loki? Good lord. I would much rather spend that much time with Yelena and Natasha.
it's just the chemistry that Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh had. And like Yelena like brought a lot of really good one-liners into the movie. Like I
Mhm.
laughed a lot of the times when she
Yeah.
spoke and that I was just like the dialogue that Yelena brought just felt a lot more natural. Just like, the part where she's like, "Why do you pose like
I
that?
know, that was
Like, you're
so
such a
funny.
poser."
I was like, thank you for calling her out. I was like, yeah, someone needs to knock Natasha down a peg. She has a flair for the
Hmm.
dramatic that nobody seems to comment on.
Yeah. And it's just like I felt like Yelena just kind of brought a certain like Gen Z energy into the movie because it
Yes.
definitely made the moments feel a lot lighter
Mm-hmm. I agree.
and relatable.
Yeah, and also because it was also nice seeing, like, because I feel like most of the other characters with Natasha, like, they'd be friends, and she would always, like, be, like, more of, like, a friend to them than I felt like with the Avengers than they were to her. Where it's like, they never, like, got that personal to her to be like, well, why do you pose like that? Like, Yelena, and then Yelena did, so I was like, thank you, finally someone who talks to this woman like a human being. And is like not afraid to call her out on being dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah. But like that's what I don't know, it's just kind of like what you do when I think especially with like little sister or just having like sisters, it's just like why
Mm-hmm.
you're just like why do you do this or like
Yeah, it's just
get on
I
each other
just love
about that.
Natasha so much, and I loved some of her one-liners too, like when she was like, like put your seatbelt on, and Elena's like what, and then like when Melina the mom was like you're slouching, and she's like I don't slouch. And I was like, wow, this is like I saw like a gift set like compiling all her like her funny one-liners, and the person was like, yeah, this is totally like master assassin over here, who's
Hmm.
also just like I don't slouch, and she's fully
Well,
like in
that's
her
it.
30s.
I think that's the thing about it, It's like, okay, I'm just gonna be on a quick tangent for a second. But
Yes.
like I'm not the biggest fan of like spy movies that take themselves too seriously just because
Yes.
like I need some kind of personality
Yeah.
injected into it to be able to enjoy it. That's why I enjoy Spy Kids so much. So like for Nat and Yelena to be like these are like assassins, like they can like easily kill someone
Mhm.
with and like do it with such skill that for them to be like having those lines of just like oh my gosh like why are you such a poser or like the fact that Nat's like put your seatbelt on little sister.
Yes. And it's just like it reminds you that they're human, which
Yeah.
that was one of my problems with how Nat was portrayed for like half of the MCU, especially like when Joss Whedon and wrote her, and then the way she was in Iron Man 2, she was just kind of like this standoffish, cold-hearted bitch who was just there. It was
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'll just kill
Yeah.
some aliens. But then it's like, okay, like, can you please, like, nobody is that one-dimensional. Like, there's always something
Hmm.
deeper than that. And there was with Natasha. It was just, you had to get past the rough exterior, and then you see in the
Yeah.
inside, she's actually kind of just this kind of human disaster
Hmm.
who just
Well,
really
I
cares
think one of the
everyone about
things,
everyone.
yeah. Well, one of the things I enjoyed about this movie was that, they gave the moments that Natasha needed to just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah.
not in like we're not constantly in action all the time, which like I did hear people be like, it was a little slow at times. But for me, I was like, okay, but like we needed that moment for characters to take a second and like think about things for a
Yeah.
moment. Like the whole scene where Yelena and Nat are in the car, and Yelena's like, "Do you like my vest? It's a cool vest, right?" And she's like, "Did you get it from an Arby's surplus store?"
Yes. That was so
And
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it like pointed to like another like a point where Yelena was like, "This is like the first thing I bought. Like I made this. This is a decision I made for myself, and not having to be in mind control."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like this points to something deeper. Yeah, we're still talking. Like it's all about a vest, but the vest represents
Her
more. You
freedom,
know."
which, and then because
Yeah.
I rewatched Infinity War in the last week, and they don't really show Natasha on screen for that long in that movie, but every time she's on screen, I was like, I think it looks like she's wearing that vest. I was like, like it looks similar enough that I'm just gonna say that is what she was wearing in Infinity War
Mhm.
was Elena's vest. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, and I was like, oh, that's so wholesome, but yeah, it's just nice to see Natasha like do mundane stuff too. Like because she always was just there in the Avengers movies to like do Avengers stuff. Either on missions or she was always like doing something. Like in Winter Soldier, every scene she's in, she's like doing actual like work type stuff. But then
Right.
like in this movie we get to see her like driving to Cheap Thrills. I was
Yeah,
like,
like
I was like,
we just
what?
need. Oh yeah, when that Sia song came
I
on, I
was
was like,
like,
okay, Nat.
okay, what? I was like, Nat, please get better music taste. Oh my god. And then like she was just in her little Airbnb watching James Bond and like saying all
Mhm.
the lines. I was like, this woman is
Yeah.
such a dork. But no, we were all they all really tried to sell us on this thing that she was this cold-hearted bitch with no personality who would just kill anyone who looked at her the wrong way for 10 years. And it's like, really? The loser who's quoting James Bond while she's eating her little TV dinner in front of her laptop. Like, yeah, okay, that's believable.
Yeah. Well, like that's the thing, right? Because it's the moments in between that like really fill in the spaces for what a person is. Like you see to see them in their most like I guess like natural habitat.
Mm-hmm. Where it's just like, what is she like on her off time? Because I guess we never really
Mhm.
saw her off time. Or you know what? When she had off time in, I feel like the ensemble or group films, I felt like she was dedicating her off time to other people. Like Civil War really comes to mind. Like she in her free time went to go console Steve in Britain after Peggy's funeral. Or she was by Tony's side the whole time when they were like trying to hunt down Team Cap. Like she just like she always is giving her time to other people. So it's like we never it's just jarring to see her alone in a shot. I don't know. I was just like,
Mhm.
when have I ever seen her just by herself? Because I feel like I've just never seen her by herself, like, ever,
Right.
that I can think of off the top of my head, which is so weird. But it's so jarring. But I guess that's just misogyny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the one time we saw Nat kind of by herself, she was crying into her sandwich in Endgame, so I guess.
She's human.
Yeah. I also like that in like we were kind of talking about this earlier with like I was saying how I was noticing differences with like women led versus male led Marvel movies. But I feel like this goes for most movies in general. Like I feel like, you know, with Captain Marvel I don't really it's not as fresh in my mind, but it's like with the when they have like female characters like as the focus, like I don't know, I feel like they're not as afraid to like actually show like kid the protagonist be emotional. Like there were tons of times in this movie where like Natasha was pretty emotional. There were times where she cried. There were times in Captain Marvel where Carol like was really emotional and stuff. But it's like with the men, it's like they never get to cry or any like they never really
Mhm.
cry in their movies. They're just kind of there all like like I don't know. I was just like
They're brooding.
yeah, there's like an
They
emotional beat that that like Black Widow has that like I feel like the other Avengers male movies did not. And then also the other thing I was noticing with how all of that I can think of all of the male led solo event Marvel movies were like there's a love interest, but and specifically there's a female love interest and there was no male love interest for Nat or Carol in their movies. Because I guess with women, we just like to we just want to see the damn story. We
right.
don't need to see them, like, you know, trying to do all this and then also have a relationship. But with the men, it's like every Iron Man movie, there was Pepper. Every Thor movie, there was Jane or at least some mention of her. And then there was Valkyrie, technically, kind of. And then, like, in Captain America, it was about Peggy and then it was about Sharon and then it somehow came back to Peggy. I don't know. Like, it's like the men are the ones who can't like just stand on their own without a female like love interest backing them. I don't know, and it's like then
Mhm.
meanwhile the female characters are fine.
Right.
So it's male
Hmm.
filmmaking versus female filmmaking. Methinks
Well, it's like the well, who did you say was right? Who wrote the Black Widow movie?
it was the person who wrote Black Widow. Also, the one who wrote the screenplay wrote Thor Ragnarok, which okay
Mhm.
that was a great film. So coolio, and then the one and then like the other two like story credits for it where it's like story by I didn't check the last person but there was a woman, it was a guy and a woman, and the woman also was a writer on WandaVision, but so
Okay.
she helped do the story, but then the actual like technical screenplay was by the Thor Ragnarok dude.
Okay. Okay.
So but I mean I feel like it did turn out surprisingly well. It didn't feel too like male written, at
Mm-hmm.
really any
Male
point.
gaze, like it was like a male
Yeah,
gaze type of.
except like maybe the period thing when Alexi was
Oh,
like, "Are you on your cycle or whatever, or is it your time of the month?"
well,
And
yeah.
I
I
was
just
like, I
think
guess they had
like,
to put that in so they could emphasize that the hysterectomy
yeah, their
happened.
hysterectomy. Yeah, but I feel like I just feel like Florence Pugh delivers her lines so well that I was just like, this is pretty funny too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did get those kind of vibes like when I was watching it. And like, well, now that I mention it, I just thought Florence Pugh was just my favorite. Like, well, I already like I'm pretty sure she's like one of my favorite actresses. But to see her take on a role like this, I was able to excuse her Russian accent
Yeah,
because
I was really worried about that initially because I was like, oh no, oh it's when I would watch the trailers, I was like, oh.
I mean, aside from that, the way, like, cause like the way that she delivers her lines, like aside accent aside, is just so done. It's just
Mm-hmm.
done so well and put into a lot of emotion as she does in her other movies that I was like, I can forgive it. Plus, also, I really did like the sadness that she had at the dinner scene, where
Mm.
she was like, I thought it was all real. No one else thought it was real. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, she's like a little kid. She was like a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how is she supposed to distinguish
Mm-hmm.
what was real and what wasn't?
So many threads that they opened that they could have followed up on in like future movies that now we just can't get because Natasha's literally
Yeah.
dead. Like the whole thing when they were talking about Natasha's mom, like her biological mom, I was like, this would be so interesting to see her like a follow up to this. Like I don't know if she tries to go find her. Like it didn't feel like a open shut thing with the mom. It felt like
Mm-hmm.
like it's like she's friends with the richest dude in the world who's a billionaire. And you're telling me that they can't give her some resources to like try to pull on that thread and see like it just feels like there was stuff that was like open ended that could have been followed up on. That's what this whole
I
podcast keeps coming back to like every 5 minutes. Like, but
Well, cause like
Natasha's dead.
it's again, it's like it came again. Like this movie came out so far ahead
Yeah.
that it's interesting, right? That in the situation, you're writing a movie for a character that is no longer gonna have more stories after that. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
it.
It
Like you
like
know that this person
it's like
dies.
in a
So
weird way it feels like a eulogy or something, like a
yeah,
Marvel eulogy of Nat, and it's like, come on, like you, like it just makes me so mad because they would never do this with Steve. They would never do that with Tony. They never do that with Thor. Like they would never do that to any of the male Avengers. This whole, oh they're dead, but now we'll do it because the whole thing like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago was at the time everybody Hollywood was still all flipped out that like they thought women led superhero films wouldn't make money. Like that was still like this whole thing. That was like basically the reason that this was not happening like that 5 years
hmm
ago. It was like, well, we don't know that it'll make money. And it's like, well, great. Now, not only did it make money, but you waited until like literally 2 years ago she died. So then now it's like you're going to have this whole generation of people who are like, "Oh my gosh, I love Black Widow. She's my favorite hero." And it's like, "Well, great. You can't even do anything with that now. You can't even make money off that. So you're also losing out the
yeah,
capitalist thing like it's just such a fail. Like it just doesn't make sense. And it's just like it'll just also make the movie feel like even though it's so good, like as its own thing, it makes it feel so hollow to me and almost like
hmm
performative. It's like, well, you waited until you became you were the biggest like grossing film in the world and then did it again within like you waited till you had all this disposable money, I guess, to take the risk and do the Black Widow movie. And it's like, why? Like, why would you do that? And it's like, Scarlett Johansson was so hot in Hollywood like 5 years ago, and she was the highest paid actress in Hollywood. Like, you're telling me you think a movie with Scarlett Johansson when she was the highest paid actress in the industry would fail? Like, like a Marvel movie. Like, I get that maybe her Ghost in the Shell or whatever, Marriage. I don't know how well those movies did, but I highly doubt that a Scarlett Johansson led Marvel film would have failed 5 years ago. Like
yeah,
I just don't understand, and especially because I feel like with like Captain Marvel and Black Widow, both like were like both like came away with like like that's pretty good, and it's like they were memorable to me. Meanwhile, like half of the like I know there's a lot of people who really like the Iron Man movies, the Captain America movies, Thor movies, whatever, but there were just so many forgettable moments in those movies for me where I felt like it just was like okay that was just kind of middle tier Marvel, And then it's like
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow and Captain Marvel just stand out to me as like, oh yeah, these are like pretty solid, like, you know. I mean, Captain Marvel's kind of, I guess, people have all their whatever opinions about. Black Widow seems to have gotten mostly positive things, and it's like
Yeah.
she had to get it right in one movie posthumously. Meanwhile, like the male Avengers could kind of do whatever for 3 movies, and then it would be fine. Like, who let Thor: The Dark World happen? That's what it always comes back to. It's just like they're just not as memorable, which is like
Mm-hmm.
speaks to quality also, and like just all that. And it's just like you kind they just let RDJ kind of do whatever for 3 movies plus all the Avengers movies, and it was like, yeah, we're obviously gonna keep making the Iron Man movies. It's like it took us so many years, so much tears, so long just to get to this one Black Widow movie, and it's after
Yeah.
she's literally dead. Like what? And then the male Avengers just get movies handed to them, and I'm just like, ugh. Even Hulk had a movie, even though we don't talk about it
Oh
anymore.
yeah. There's a lot of like goals and like pressures that you have for like a female-led movie, right? Because it's
Yes.
like there's not that many,
Yeah.
especially in a blockbuster game. So as much as like I did like Black Widow, there are a lot of shortcomings where I was like, this could have been done a lot better,
Yes.
for sure.
Because when the film brain comes in,
Yeah,
got
so
that film
like
school
again,
brain rot.
everyone who's like, "Oh my gosh, is the movie good or bad?" It's like, I mean, every movie has their own
Ups and downs.
like ups and downs. Like you should approach looking at a film, if you actually have a good critical thinking brain, that you should look at it with nuance and like not take everything so literal
So black and
and
white.
like end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what were there any shortcomings for you about the movie that you were like, this could have been
Um,
done better?
yes. I'm trying to think.
Because
Oh.
oh, I could go
You
first.
can go first because you probably have your thoughts more
Okay.
together than me.
Yeah, so like I have seen the last 20 minutes of the movie so many times because I see it every time I go into work. And one of the things, like first off, like the movie was kind of like weirdly paced to me. I don't know if you also felt that,
Mm-hmm.
but when we meet Yelena, we just like kind of hit the ground running. Like she's in mind control for like 2 seconds, and then she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"I woke up. Where am I?" like type of
Yeah.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, I feel like I needed a little bit more from her, like in the present day, because I understand she was already like part of the whole Red Room thing from the beginning. But again, because we were missing that gap in between those years, that I
Yeah.
was missing that kind of context for her, and so it kind of like was a big shift for me to be like, okay, we need to switch gears on what's going on now. So there was that, and I thought like the last 20 minutes I think are my least favorite. It's my least favorite part of the movie
Mm.
because
Wait, what
I
scene does that
again
start
like
with when you go in?
okay,
Is she
so
still
like
is she still on the thing in the
yeah, so
sky?
she's on in this, it's like the part where basically after, or the part where she's like talking to Dracoff, like that
Mm-hmm.
onward. So I again, like I like the family aspect of the movie, like I had said before. I just wish that there was a moment where we saw Nat and Yelena fighting together, or even the family generally fighting together, because that
Mm.
was a whole thing that we were building up to. Like, oh, they're coming back. They're not like a real family, but they are a real family at the end of it because they all care about each other. Like, that's what we were going towards. And so I felt like you needed to have that moment where that's solidified in them taking on all of these bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but no, they didn't do that. They were all separated for that whole climax
Mm-hmm.
and resolution. So I was like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we missed something here, but yeah.
True.
And then I definitely think the whole thing with the Taskmaster was underused.
And that's like the thing that's pissing a lot of people off right now because that's like so it went so far from what the comics were with the
Yeah.
Taskmaster that it was like what?
Yeah, and also just like the whole thing of Natasha being like, I'm sorry. Of like where she's just like, I'm sorry. She just kept saying I'm sorry so many times. I was like, okay, but like I need to see like it didn't really I didn't feel like it really went anywhere
Mhm.
because they had because I'm sure like it was for sure like the guilt she was obviously feeling guilt with the daughter being like the collateral damage when she was trying to kill Dreykov, but it's just that there wasn't really much of a fight between her and Taskmaster.
Mhm.
Like it was just more so them falling
Yeah.
out of the sky together,
Mhm.
and then she just breaks the vial with her fist, which I was like, oh, okay, I don't know how you do that, but okay. Oh, I remember I had told you before, I was like, the CGI is kind of wonky, like,
Oh my god, they're in the
from the
sky. Yeah.
sky.
So bad.
Yeah, I was like, I just didn't really seem good. Like, all of the shots where it's like a medium close-up of the characters, and it's like the camera's head on them, and then there's just explosions in the background. I was like,
Yeah, that was
this does not look
something
good.
about how it was shaded or something. I was like, it doesn't look real.
And also, I guess the way that it was shot also came off as a little bit too cartoony to me. Because I know
Mm,
you also thought that the whole thing of a skyship
yes,
was cartoony.
I did.
The way that Dreykov dies, where he's just engulfed in flames and you just see his glasses fly off, I was like, this is a little too much.
Yeah.
Or the way that, like, Yelena, like, used her staff to break the helicopter or the plane wheel or whatever, and then the way that she flew back, I was like,
Yeah, it was a
okay.
little dramatic. Yeah, like I liked that Natasha jumped after her because I thought that was a very interesting parallel to Endgame
Yeah.
with the
Hmm.
Vormir scene,
Oh,
which I
okay.
actually gift on Tumblr. I actually cut like you can make it's like a exact 3-part parallel where a person like Clint and Yelena both willingly fly off for Natasha. Natasha then immediately follows them, catches them, makes sure they're safe, and then pushes herself off of them. Like she does the exact same thing with both
Okay.
of them. Where I was like, she's so good. This is her character. Or I just had a whole moment with that, which I mean, I don't know if they shot. I think they might not have. I don't know if they would have seen Endgame, like the director would have seen Endgame before or after
Yeah.
making Black Widow. But I thought that was a good parallel. But other than that, yeah, I was like, uh, the CGI.
Also, just like the close-ups of her and Nat falling, like on their
Yeah,
faces, I was
it's
like,
just
this is very close.
I know. It was so hard to gif. I was like, I can't even see what I'm editing on Photoshop. I was like, who's what? What am I looking at? I was like, oh my god, this is so annoying. I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at right now. But yeah, I was just like, okay. What other qualms did you have?
I think those were just my main things. I just like, or also just wish like I needed more context with the Red Room
Yeah.
in general.
I felt like that, like, it made sense to me because of how much I'd read about, like, Natasha's comic
Mm-hmm.
origins when I was younger. And I was like, I felt like for what they covered in the movie, it did not really make as much sense.
Yeah.
Also, because one of my other biggest gripes with it, for, like, especially because it's, like, kind of an origin story, I don't know, I was like, because Elena mentions, like, oh, yeah, you went through, like, the psychological conditioning. And I'm like, for all this talk about Natasha being brainwashed from what age of the first Avengers movie to now, have we ever actually seen a single scene from when she was actually brainwashed? It's
Mm-hmm.
mentioned
Right.
in like
Right.
every movie, but we've never actually seen it. It's like it's almost like expected that you've read a Black Widow comic, a Black Widow origin comic, that you don't need to see it because you're like, oh yeah, I read like it's like a prerequisite reading thing, and it's like, that's like I feel like they should have shown actually Natasha in the Red Room. Also, because I think another thing too that was like not really emphasized or like explored was like because the whole part of why Natasha's the one who's the Black Widow is like, at least from my understanding of her comic origins, she was like top of her class, would like had a lot of kills. Like she was like one
Mm-hmm.
of the like the creme de la crop, like the best of the best at like what she like literally murdering men, women, and children, or whatever. And it's like we also never see that in the Marvel movies, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's just because they don't want to show an Avenger like literally murdering people, besides Hawkeye, I guess, in Endgame. but it's like we never even see this whole like, well, what was Natasha at her prime in the Red Room? I don't know, because we never saw it in the MCU from 2012 to now. We've never actually seen her brainwashed. We've never actually seen her doing her thing. She like tells her like
Right.
she'll tell her stories until she'll mention things, other characters will mention things, but we've never actually seen a whole sequence or scene of her doing that. We've never even seen like her and Hawkeye's first meeting, which I feel like they
Yeah.
should have shown by now. I don't like, it just feels like you might want to, or what, like, and then because Yelena is talking about how it's like, oh well, the chemical thing is different because you went through psychological conditioning, which was different from what I'm going through. And it's like, well, can we see that?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
maybe
then
we
it
should
doesn't
see
really,
that then.
yeah. It doesn't really create kind of like, like that juxtaposition in the way like these two have been like, basically like mind controlled differently
Yeah.
psychologically and or by vile whatever
The
injected with whatever.
Yeah, it's just like it feels like there's a big chunk in both Natasha and Yelena's story missing that, I mean, it should have been in this movie, or honestly, again, this is the whole problem with them waiting so long to do this movie is they don't really have all this, they don't have all the time in the world to do all this backtracking for a character who's dead. So they can't go that in
Right.
depth to it, but it's like now we're missing that whole context for this movie where it's like, because then I was like, okay, so if this happened, like if Yelena's brain, like it sound like I would assume that Yelena was brainwashed the same way as Natasha before Natasha left, and it sounds like it was because Natasha got out that they changed it, but it's like we don't really get to see that, and that was just me trying to infer what was happening. So I was kind of like I don't know, I just felt like we don't really see old Red Room in action ever, and we don't even know like
Mm-hmm.
what they are. Like it's like because there was the whole thing too in the comics, it's like tied to like the KGB or whatever in Russia, and like government and like all that kind of like political, it's like a very political thing, and it's like it feels like in the movie they kind of cut that. I don't know if they were just trying to be sensitive to like current political times and stuff, because I know there's the whole demonization of communist Russia and like
Right.
the Red Scare and all
Mm-hmm.
that. Like there's like that's valid, but it's like why then is this entity that we're not even sure is a government entity, like why is it sending assassins out to kill people? Because then what, I guess, unless it's like a weapon for hire type thing, like I don't really know. They just never
Mm-hmm.
really got into what's Dreykov's deal, what's with the Red
Right.
Room, that I feel like
Yeah.
I only kind of understood because I'd spent so long on Natasha's page on the Marvel Comics wiki, or 616, when I was a teenager trying, because then when I tried to write fanfic of her, I was like, I don't even know what the deal is with her, because they didn't really explain any of this, and then they've kind of explained it now, but like not in depth. So it's like I don't know. So that was like my one of my, as I've seen it more and I've thought about the movie more, that's like my biggest thing now is I'm like there's a lot missing. There's like this huge gap, and we also
Mm-hmm.
don't even know where
Mm-hmm.
Yelena came from,
Yeah.
because
Right.
they made it sound like in Cuba when they were taking her back to Russia, that was her first time going to the Red Room. So I was like, did they just steal a random child from America for 3 years? And then like I was like, huh? And then I don't know. I'm not someone who's, I English is my first language, so maybe this is different. But I was also like, if they're all spies, wouldn't they have like American accents or other English accents when they speak English? Especially because Yelena started off American, it seemed like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, maybe I'm just
I
thinking
don't
too
know.
into this. I don't know. And then, like, they also, I was like, why are they all calling her Natasha? She literally changed her name to Natasha when she defected to S.H.I.E.L.D. Her name when she was in the Red Room was literally Natalia Romanova. But nobody called her that a single time in the movie. So I was so confused. I was like, wait, they literally, what? I was like, huh? I don't know. I was just like, okay, we're missing some context here. Also, and then this is something I also knew before from reading about the comics. Alexei is her husband in the comics, but now he's her dad.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I guess I don't know. It was like they were like a arranged marriage power couple thing for the Red Room, but now he's
Oh,
like
okay.
they were, from what I remember, they were like arranged marriage power couple. Though I think she really did like him, but then he like died, but it was like not real. And then so there was like some betrayal thing happening later. I don't know, but so there was that whole beat to her character. Oh, and then of course the biggest thing they retconned about her, which happened in Winter Soldier, was they made her the same age as Scarlett Johansson, when in reality Natasha's like an elder. She's an elderly citizen like Bucky and Steve, because she was like basically given a knockoff super soldier serum that's like not as strong, but like if they'd actually put that in the MCU, it would make a lot more sense why she's able to like fall from high up places and hit like 5 things on the way down and then slam into the ground and then get up, because that happened a lot in this movie where I was like,
it did.
I was like, and with Yelena too, I was like, are we gonna establish if these people are enhanced at all or not? Because if they're not enhanced, then how is this working? I don't know. I was just a little confused on that one. I was like, okay, like, I get Natasha's, like, you know, she's got a stubborn streak like Steve, where she could probably get up from anything, but also realistically, you know? And then Taskmaster, I get why they made that the way they did for the movie with Dreykov's daughter and all, but I know for a lot of comics people that was a big yikes, because the Taskmaster person is an actual real character in the comics, just a dude with a totally different backstory. So, I guess rip that guy. I don't know if he's ever gonna make it to the MCU or not. Yeah, I like, and then I also like, it was kind of like a Yelena origin story, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
And I felt like that sometimes would take away from that, or sometimes the parent thing would take away from that. I think, but also because for me, it was just so hard at first to adjust to like not having actually other people in her life besides the Avengers, because again, they waited so freaking long to do that for like people who've been like really following the Avengers, or really like Nat or whatever, for like the last 10 years. It's like very out of left field. It's like, oh, all of a sudden, like, you know, this character that I'm obsessed with, who's like, you know, doesn't have anyone, now she has people that I've met, and that's like, what? It's very hard to, like, it was a little bit of a weird adjustment when I was watching, because I was like, whoa, I'm so used to this character literally not having anyone, because that's what they set her up, but now I guess. Right. And then it's just, again, the fact that this came after Infinity War and Endgame just makes everything so, like, upsetting, because now it's like the Avengers, when they were all, after she died, and they were like, does she have any other family? No. It's like, wow, guys, you just
got us.
Yeah, they literally,
no, she's got us.
Just like, they look like they've never asked this woman in her life about her life, which it's like makes me so mad for Natasha's behalf, because as we saw from this movie, in the ending, when she's like, you know, I just found out I have 2 families, so I'm gonna go fix the other one, like, and she was so like optimistic and so like, yeah, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna bring my family back together, and it's like, why is this woman the only one trying, or the only one who cares? And then these people don't even care enough to ask her about her life, to be like, oh yeah, like what, and then like they didn't even ask her like, what have you been up to after Civil War? Like, I was just like, oh my god, like, this just makes the Avengers look like jerks, and like they kind of are. And it's like, obviously if this movie had come out before Infinity War and Endgame, they would not have this glaring plot hole, but it's like, now they do, so now the Avengers literally just look like jerks. But I bet if you asked like Russo Bros or some Marvel person about it, they're just like, well, Natasha's a very private person, which was their excuse for why she didn't get a funeral. Which is, I'm so, like, it was just nice to have people who finally understood her character, like, handle her. And I was just like, oh my god, because everyone else has been so bad about it. But yeah, I don't know, I think it's just, and I think really my biggest problems with the film are just always forever going to stem from the fact that it's just so freaking late. It's just like, this is unreal how late this is. This is and now she's dead, and I see we came back to that. Always comes back to her being dead.
In conclusion, everyone,
in conclusion, she's dead.
That's it.
She's dead, but she's apparently too private of a person to have a funeral, and then Yelena had to give her a headstone herself.
A tombstone, yeah.
I was just like, oh my god. So that's why I hope I hope she doesn't stop with Hawkeye. I hope she continues. I really hope she hunts down old man Steve Rogers.
Oh my god.
And like, just, I don't know, just some light elder murder there, because that man, like, one of my friends was like, you know, Black Widow, it literally had nothing to do with Steve, but it made me hate him more. I was like, yeah, me too, because it's like she was like having her whole friendship as magic arc with him in Winter Soldier, where she was like, oh, I can trust him, and then she spends the rest of the movies like doing all this stuff for him and being this great friend to him, and then like he just did not reciprocate, except the one time he saved her in Winter Soldier. I was just like, oh my god. Yeah. Oh wait, other thing I did not like was, why was the red room in the sky? That felt so cartoon Superville.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
the tone of this really changed. Oh, but then one thing I did like is that I felt like Captain Marvel was very heavy-handed with the feminist message.
They were. It was.
But then Black Widow was a little more, I felt like like more not as toned up. Like it was more like, oh, like, you know, girl power, but in the way of like, here's a way in which girls are oppressed, and like this
Yeah,
like human trafficking.
Captain Marvel was like women's march.
Yeah.
The women's march level.
Yes.
Where it was like loud and proud, and
When
we're
she
like,
was
okay, we get it.
like, I will always love the montage of her getting back up or whatever, but damn, that was like so heavy-handed. And it's like,
she is our Shiro.
yeah, like with this one, I felt like it was more interesting. Maybe kind of still a little heavy-handed, but I thought it was better at that message because it had the whole thing of like, you know, I like when Dreykov was like, I use like, you know, what the world has too much like resource of, and that was like, he was girls, and I was like, I think that's a really interesting beat. And again, another element of Natasha's character that could have been like explored, like, you know, Steve and Tony are just fighting about whatever, and she would be there probably being like, hey guys, can we like talk about human trafficking, like real issues? Like,
Yeah.
this is I don't know, so much wasted potential on like this whole thing. Like, her movie was fine, it was good, but it's like, it just emphasized how much potential she had in all the other films, and how much it was wasted to like make the Avengers not a laughing stock.
Okay, but I am excited to see Yelena and Kate Bishop.
I hope
together.
they team up on Hawkeye.
I know.
I'm so done with Jeremy Renner too. He's like just bad like, in real life.
Energies together.
Just
Oh yeah.
With Haley Steinfeld too. That'll be really interesting.
Yeah, Florence Pugh and Haley Steinfeld seem like really good, like potential for really good chemistry together on screen.
Like I'm excited for that. I have no idea when it's coming out, but I'm really hoping. Oh, and then also I really want them. I was hoping that during the credits they would have multiple end credit scenes to show like, since this movie takes place not like 5 years ago for us, but in MCU canon, it's like 7 or 8 years ago. So it's like for Natasha, almost a decade had passed after this movie before she died. So I was like, you know, if Yelena had not been snapped, that just makes it feel so weird, because it's like, why had this not come up for 10 years? You know? But so I'm assuming then that means Yelena and maybe Alexia and Melina were also snapped or something. I don't know. Because then that would also add a lot more context to like why Nat was like so emo in Endgame, and why she like was so eager to jump on Vormir, because it's like also to get her to bring her other family back too. But I guess we never know, because they didn't put that in the end credits. I was hoping, I was like, oh, maybe they'll show like her snapping and Nat realizing, oh shit, she's gone. But who knows? Yeah, okay, I think that's the actual end of my thoughts.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your in-depth thoughts and analysis on Black Widow. I think we should wrap up this episode now.
Yes.
But thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Pineapple Headache. I don't know when the schedule is going to be regulated back to a week or so now, because next week me and Madison are going to be...
That's right. It's less than 2 weeks away. Yeah.
We're
not
graduating. Walking across the stage.
Yeah,
but we are gonna be.
We're finally getting the diploma holder. Or I don't know if they gave that to us already. I already forgot.
No, they didn't give it to us. But mine's already in a frame. So like,
I think mine is literally in the envelope. It came in the mail at home somewhere. So cool.
Okay, but everyone, thank y'all for listening to another episode. Madison, do you have any last words?
Go watch
last thought.
Black Widow in your local theater or on Disney Plus, or, you know, if you're gonna do it for free some other way outside of the law, that is fine with me. Scarlett Johansson does not need our money. She's fine. Yeah, so go watch it and give me your thoughts and enjoy Natasha with me.
Okay. And would you say that Black Widow has given you a headache?
The only thing that's giving me a headache is the male Avengers. I hate all of them now. Why was Natasha a better friend to you than you were to her? And in this essay, I will. Okay, I won't give my essay, but Natasha Romanoff is a good bro. So she is not the headache. Her friends are.
All right. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yes.
Goodbye.
See you at the next headache.